Black men had several reasons for wanting to enlist in the military. But two common reasons were, number one, to solidify fair treatment and respect for their constitutional rights. And the second one was just to better their civilian life after war. Sadly, this was not the reality they experienced in the military as well as upon their return from World War I and II. Black men began to realize their worth while they were fighting. And while they were serving in the armed services, they began to take pride in who they were. For many, their demeanor changed. They walked more confidently, as if they were actually equal to the white men they fought alongside. This, however, was highly offensive to the white men that they served with, and instead of being welcomed back home as American soldiers with honor, many Black men were lynched and killed in order to basically put them back in their place. These accounts have been documented happening on the very buses and trains that carried them all home together. Fast forward to the GI Bill, where veterans had access to special benefits such as healthcare, education, and home loans. All of these benefits helped propel veterans into a comfortable middle-class lifestyle. However, due to systemic discrimination, these benefits were not readily being offered to Black veterans. And there is now statistical evidence of the disproportionate amount of denied benefits between Black and white veterans. My father fought in Vietnam. He is a wounded soldier suffering from hearing loss in his left ear due to an explosion. He has suffered from undiagnosed PTSD for decades after his service. He was a young 20-something returning home from war, and unfortunately, he was also unaware of the benefits available to him as a veteran. He did not receive free health care for his injury. He did not receive mental health care for the PTSD. And this was common for many soldiers in that time, but this is a significant part of his story. One of the benefits he was unaware of was that his children had access to a free college education. Now let's fast forward a few years when it's time for his 3 daughters to attend college. Our family didn't have the money to pay for college out of pocket, so my 2 sisters and myself, we all took out college loans to pay for most of our education. We all went into thousands of dollars in debt, and it was years later when my father was finally treated for the PTSD that he realized the benefit that was available. But by this time, it was too late, and we could not retroactively pursue reimbursement of our student loans. After I graduated from college, I had to figure out how to pay for approximately $60,000 in student loan debt. That is an amazing amount of money for a young 20-something adult. I worked and did the best I could to pay it back. Once I married Eddie, we worked together to pay down the loan, but things changed when we began to have kids. It became clear that our family would greatly benefit from having me home with our children, so we sacrificed my full-time income for a season of raising kids, which meant a few years of loan forbearance as we struggled to live off of one income. This also meant interest was accruing on an already very large debt. After paying on this loan on and off for years, eventually the debt grew to $96,000. This past November, I hosted a prayer group at my home, and we had a focus of praying the Lord's Prayer. I felt particularly challenged around the beginning of the prayer, which says or starts, "Our Father." I told the group, I've come to know God as holy. I've come to know him as sovereign. I've come to know him as a provider, but I don't think I know him yet as a father. So that month, I began asking God, will you show me this part of your character and identity? Will you help me understand and know you as God, my Father? 2 weeks into November, I received mail from the Federal Treasury. It was a check stating that my student loan had been forgiven in full. And the check was for an amount that I apparently overpaid based on the date I qualified for loan forgiveness. I went to call Eddie so we could rejoice together on how God forgave over $90,000 in debt in a moment. And as I cried and thanked God, I felt like God whispered to me that your dad would have loved to have done this for you. And in that moment, I felt like God took me a step further into his invitation to know him as my Father. In Luke 12, Jesus is taking time to teach the disciples about the kingdom of God and how it operates, specifically around taking care of their lives and their needs. After teaching them how God takes care of his creation, especially the creation of his own children, he closes this section with these words in verse 32. Do not be afraid, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. Jesus was inviting his disciples to know the God of the universe as a father who cared for his children, a father who takes good pleasure in giving them the goodness of his kingdom in their broken Roman-dominated culture. This invitation was available to Black veterans, even though their rights were denied. And this invitation is available to the generations after them that shared the bearing of the consequences of those denied rights. God is a father who takes good pleasure in giving his children his kingdom. No matter the injustice, he's a father who sees and takes care of me.